Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you can learn to make more money in less time and have more fun. I'm the founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we build great teams for contractors. I have a very unusual guest today, Janine Aurichio from Say Yes to Yum. I may have got that wrong, but she'll correct me. I'm going to call her a mental health coach or fitness coach, something like that. Like she does for your mind what personal trainers do for your body. I'm just guessing that, right?
Exactly.
So, and a lot of us have memberships to the gym, but the membership to the gym doesn't really cut it. You have to go do the work, right? So my guessing mental fitness is close to the same kind of thing. You can, listen to a book or read what I listen to books. And then if you don't do the work, it isn't going to help. So you work with contractors, the people we're talking to. Tell them a little about what you do, your backstory, and how you do it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul. I was in the design and construction industry for 20 years as an interior designer, a project manager, and owner's rep. Before that, I was a type A MBA running around New York City. So I have a bunch of experience under my belt, but I do understand the challenges of not only this industry, but specifically contractors. I've worked closely with them as a designer, and now I coach them. And I have found a way out of sort of the chronic drama and overwhelm and chaos that can sometimes overtake a project. And now I want to share with others that way, because this industry is complex. Every project is different. You have a new group of people and variables and clients for every project, and it can lead to drama, as you might know. And so I like to find people a way out of the drama. And I am personally not exempt. When I was a firm owner, I think I created a lot of drama myself with what we're going to talk about are saboteurs and how we sabotage ourselves. And I have a very high controller and stickler saboteurs. And I know that led to employee dissatisfaction and disconnect and lack of trust, lack of motivation. And so, I'm not exempt from being in the trenches. However, I may be a little bit ahead of the curve, because I've been doing this inside work for over a dozen years now. And so my passion is to share that with others. I heard you say, make more money, have more fun. Absolutely. I love to talk about prosperity. And to me, that is doing what we love, achieving what the goals we want to achieve, and doing it with lasting happiness, wellness, and peace of mind.
Well, I know I'm Jim Rohn, rest in peace. I'm a big fan. He says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, right? And I totally believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking a typical, I'm just going to be a bunch of stereotypes here. So typical guy, got a $3 million company, working 60 hours a week, doesn't get to his time with his kids. His employees are like not bad enough to fire, good enough to keep. He's working his butt off, and he's maybe making, a couple $100,000 a year. His wife might be a teacher. They have a couple kids. He's stressed out a lot of the time. And he's asking himself, is this really worth it or not? He misses the ball games. He is, his kids are not perfect. They may have to go to drug rehab or something. It was like, I don't think this is unusual, right? I mean, and he's wondering, is this worth it? I mean, I used to be, I'm going to say, a plumber or electrician. I went to work for somebody else. It was a lot easier. I had a 40-hour work week. I made $150,000 a year. Like, I didn't have to worry about other stuff. And now I've got employees, I've got cash flow, I've got creditors, I've got clients that are unhappy. I've got architects that are upset with the clients are upset with the architects. I'm a man in the middle. If I throw the architect under the bus, I'm in deep doo-doo, but I got to keep them happy. And I'm stressed. I mean, like, does that sound familiar? Does that work?
Yes.
So I'm that guy. Now the question is, okay, Miss Yum Yum, or whoever you are, tell me.
Yes to Yum.
Yeah, yes to Yum. What the heck am I supposed to do? If I go, meditate a half hour a day, do I go to the gym? I haven't got time to go to the gym. I've got time to meditate. I've got no time for time management, right?
Well,
what do I do?
I'm glad you brought that up. So a couple of things, starting with meditation, not a bad idea. Those voices in your head that are saying, I don't have enough time to do X, that I related earlier, I mentioned earlier, the saboteurs. And that is language of a framework that I teach called positive intelligence. And that's about getting mentally fit. And mental fitness, as you mentioned earlier, the definition of that is your capacity to respond to life's challenges, whatever it's throwing at us, with a positive outlook and a positive perspective rather than a negative one. So rather than getting stressed or upset, because our brains are wired for negativity and for fear. For survival reasons, our brain notices three to one what's wrong, what could be a threat, what's a problem. We look for the negative. And that's the human condition. So, we're all in that same boat. So yes, you need the processes, you need a great team, you need to have talent and, knowledge, etc. What I have found, and in my own personal experience and those I work with, is until you work on what's going on between your ears, I call it the inside job, you're just not going to reach your highest levels of success with that lasting calm and inner peace and wellness. That's the prosperity. Like, we want to get rid of that stress. Those saboteurs and that survival brain are really what's causing all our stress. And sometimes people don't like to hear this, but a couple of truth bombs that I'll drop out of the gate. One is you're responsible for your own stress. Two is the only thing you really have control over at all in this world is your response to things. We can't control other people, places, things, outcomes, no matter how hard we try. And in fact, it's that really hard trying and efforting and grinding and pushing that kind of makes it worse. So we want to work on, oh, go ahead.
Question for you. Okay. Responsibility is the ability to respond, right? That's the definition.
Yes.
So how do you improve your ability to respond to this negative stuff? I mean, do you, like, if I go to the gym, I know if I do sets of weights and I've got it, my trainer can say, if you do this and eat this kind of food, you're going to be a healthier human. Your body's going to get better. So I'm talking, you're now my mental fitness coach. What am I supposed to do to get better?
You are going to, first of all, I'm going to put you through a 6-week program that's going to teach you how to do this, but I can tell you in 4 simple steps. The first one is you need to get self-aware and identify when you are going negative, when those saboteurs are hijacking you. Mm-hmm. And we do that by noticing those negative emotions. If you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, guilty, ashamed, disappointed, regret, on and on and on, your saboteurs are at work. So we want to be able to catch ourselves. The second thing we need to do is assume, so the antidote to your saboteurs are your sage. We all have this inner wisdom that just is a lot quieter than those nasty saboteurs that are always yelling at us. So we have to tap into that sage. And we do that by doing very simple, they're like the bicep curls of your brain. And they are just very simple exercises where you pay attention to senses in your body. So whether that's your breath, your hearing, what you're seeing, feeling your feet on the floor. I mean, there's hundreds of ways to do them. But so one is catching yourself. 2 is doing some of these simple exercises to get you out of that survival brain and into your body and wake up the sage. You assume the sage perspective, which is every situation, no matter how difficult it may seem, or there may not seem like there are any solutions, every situation is an opportunity or a gift, or you can turn it into one. And then the 4th step is creating that gift. And that's it. And practicing these exercises every day. Like, you can't stop going to the gym in theory, right? You can't.
You have to work on yourself. So I'm going to give you a specific example.
Please.
Okay. So I won't say the person's, but a person, for example, They have a bookkeeper. The bookkeeper, for whatever reason, was tricked by AI, because the bad guys are getting really smart these days.
Yeah.
And they were corresponding with the bank, right? And the bank ended up, the supposed bank, but it was a bad guy, but she knows a bad guy, said, can you change this routing number on this deposit, right? And so $80,000 went to the wrong Chase account, gone, right?
Yeah.
Well, the bank says, not our problem.
No problem.
And the contractor says that, so it ended up in court, and so we're taking to court. So here's a guy that just lost 80 grand through it just disappeared.
Yep.
What does he do to not feel bad about it?
Well, it's interesting that you're picking, that's a pretty big deal to any of us, 80 grand, right?
Right.
So that's like master's level mental fitness, which I will answer for you. Usually we start with the smaller things like a cranky client or, I had one client who he's got a strong avoider saboteur and had hundreds of thousands of dollars of invoices that hadn't been sent because he needed to go back in. It had been done with an old software, and things weren't categorized right. And there was a lot of work to kind of make them understandable to the client. So things like that. But to get back to your $80,000 question, the first is like, yeah, that's a big deal. So have your feeling of like, oh shit, I'm screwed, right? That's a natural instinct. But don't wallow in that. Don't stay in that.
Because you can't blame anybody. I mean,
no, you can't. There's no one to blame, and you can't. If you stay aggravated, I mean, you're not going to get. What's that going to get you? It's not going to get you your money back, right? So the idea would be and this would be these bigger problems like this. The solution or the opportunity becomes clear maybe over a longer period of time. You're not going to on a dime go, oh, I lost $80,000. Okay, everything's fine. There's a gift here. Like that might take some time, but maybe the opportunity is, having some checks and balances through when your bookkeeper gets a request from a bank, before they act, they talk to you or they take some other steps. There can be processes put in place there.
What he actually did was fire the bookkeeper because he told her not to. He told her not to do it. But so now he doesn't have a bookkeeper and he lost $80,000. So I mean, these are real problems. I'm trying to. How do you coach somebody like that on? Okay, how do you not let that affect your business and your attitude and the way you deal with clients, the way you deal with other employees? I think it's critically important because it can escalate if you don't.
Absolutely. And it's a practice. Like you don't go to the gym on your first day at the gym and try to bench press 300 pounds, right? You're going to start with the lighter weight. So that's why I would try to help somebody in that situation, but that's going to take a little more coaching and handling probably. We all judge, the master saboteur is the judge, and we all judge ourselves really harshly. We also judge others and we judge circumstances. So the first step would be, put the hammer down from probably beating yourself up like, oh, I did something wrong, right? There's 5 sort of aspects to your wiser self. And the first one's always empathy. So I would say first, like, where can you have some empathy for yourself in this situation, for the bookkeeper, for the bank, and just everyone involved. And then get really curious about, what were all the factors that led up to this happening, and what can you do about it? I think the actual solution, and you can get to a solution and action, but I think the more important part is your own response. And are you going to, what I like to say is, keep your hand on the hot stove of freaking out, or can you adjust your thinking that, okay, this sucks. It is the reality. Maybe I can get my money back. And there's, you can investigate down the road. But I think the more important thing is just helping to get in the mindset by doing these exercises that you're just not going to go off the deep end and stay there. You're going to be able to recover quicker and stay in the deep end for less time. Another client of mine has a really strong controller saboteur, and maybe what I would call micromanages their crew. Leaves him less time to do his job, so he's running around with his hair on fire, less time to be a leader and to grow his business, do business development, create stress for him. It's his crew's not growing because he's not giving a lot of training or leeway to the crew. And so in our work together, I would try to help him see how maybe he was winning the little battles, but losing the bigger war, and maybe having short-term control, but less long-term influence. And
so, question for you, how do a lot of contractors quote don't want to be a wuss and hire someone to help them with their emotions, right? I've heard that, right?
Yes.
I won't use that. There's probably other words that are more accurate, but not appropriate. Yeah. So just buckle up. Be a man. Be a man. That's famous. Just be a man and handle it and move on. I mean, maybe I have a heart attack in 3 years, but that's 3 years from now.
Right.
So, buck up, be a man, and just deal with it. So how do you get people to give themselves permission to ask for help?
Yeah. Well, I try to come at it in a very, like just a matter of fact way, like you're saying, and also being honest and like, how's that working for you? Yeah.
Dr. Phil comment, right? Like, how's that working for you, right?
Yeah. And, people can't be coached if they're not coachable. So usually by the time someone's coming to me, they're kind of sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, and they're willing to try something different. And, I was just reading a person I follow today. They had a quote that said, "There's no growth happening in the comfort zone and very little comfort found in the growth zone."
That's true.
So, yeah, which is so true. And the cool thing with the discomfort in the growth zone is that it's temporary. It's like the way out is to go through it. Whereas if you're staying stuck, and there's no judgment there. I mean, I was stuck for 52 years of my life. That stuckness is really painful. And like you said, the results can be even life-threatening, right? And so the other cool thing about this framework, the positive intelligence framework, is it's backed by tons of science. A gentleman spent 10 years developing this and took the latest findings of cognitive psychology and neuroscience and positive psychology. And so it's not just some woo-woo flash in the pan idea. There's
how do you differentiate yourself from, like, I'm going to call it the classic therapist mom, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? So how do you differentiate yourself from that?
Therapy, I am not a therapist. I'm not qualified to be a therapist. Therapists are a lot more about looking back and kind of figuring out the why and unwinding the past. What I'm concerned with and what coaching focuses on is forward motion. And so how do we want to get through this challenge? How do you want to meet your goals or create the vision you're trying to create? And yes, some therapeutic type topics may come up along the way. And if they're severely getting in someone's way, I might refer them to a therapist. But most people can get over those hurdles, without needing to go to therapy. So there is a big difference. I'm there to support people in their growth and meeting their goals. So
I'm assuming here that your ideal client is somebody who's good and wants to be better, not somebody who's broken.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of a little broken, but yes.
Just say define broken.
Yes, they definitely have to have, the willingness, like I said, to try something different, to grow, to do better, to know that maybe they're not functioning at, try as they might, they're not functioning at their highest for whatever reason.
Well, it's sort of like sports medicine versus with somebody you broke your arm and you get it fixed, right? In sports medicine, you're trying to make good people better. And when
Yeah.
somebody is going to a physical therapist, sometimes it's because something doesn't work and they need to fix it. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that your market is people that they're currently coping with their life. I mean, they're making a living, they're not in jail, they're not on drugs, they may be drinking more than they should.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how do they get better, right?
Yes. Yes. They're trying their best. They're hardworking folks, and just something is, consistently getting in the way. And look, we all have beliefs and patterns of thought and behaviors that we've just developed over time, and maybe they served us at a certain time, or maybe it's just what's socially acceptable. But we all do things that impact our performance, impact our relationships, and impact our well-being. That's kind of just the human condition at this
And
point.
you specialize in people that are business owners or that are not, I would say as a group, you specialize in people that are entrepreneurs or business owners versus somebody that's got a job. Is that fair?
Yes. Pretty much 100% of my clients are entrepreneurs in the design build space and have been around. I've been in business for at least, generally 7 to 10 years, and are kind of in the, what you set up. They've been working hard. They kind of got into the business for, because they love building, or they love solving problems, or they love people. And then, you open a business and you've got employees and insurance and cranky clients and all that good stuff. And like you said, it's like, where am I and how did I get here? Kind of a thing. And they realize that maybe, hopefully they have the epiphany that, they don't have to figure this out alone, and it's not a weakness to ask for help. Look, I am an entrepreneur, a solopreneur. I have a coach. I can't coach myself, and I even know how to coach people. It's just a kind of a law of nature that to say things out loud and to have an objective person sort of guide you or be witness to you and reason things out with is really invaluable.
Can you give me, not using any names, a success story in a contract you work with and how your intervention, if I have a better term, made a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm thinking of a specific contractor with a crew of 8 people. She's been in business for a couple of decades, and was at that burnout phase. Jumped out of bed and immediately got on the phone and started working, and worked a full day, maybe had dinner with a kid, and then was doing emails till 11 o'clock at night again, and just kind of couldn't get out of that cycle. And they went through the positive intelligence training and really embraced it, and did the exercises every day, and over time, over months of coaching, came to see how this particular person had a strong stickler, saboteur, and also pleaser. But that
What is the stickler? A perfectionist?
stickler is a perfectionist, yeah. And that, in fact, he needed to start trusting and letting go and start delegating more. And that entailed him taking the time to train. He repeatedly sort of churned through foremen who were supposedly experienced and very quickly proved not to be. And so trained some guys who he knew were good guys, but needed a little more experience and just a little more guidance, and accepting the fact that that was maybe going to have a time, take a little more time than one would like. But it's sort of the idea of teaching people how to fish instead of giving them the fish. And so we came up with a training schedule that he took his guys through, and he started weekly sort of having these on-site walk through tutorials of how he walks through a project, what he looks for, how, coming up with processes for how to open up the job site in the morning, how to close it down at night. And bit by bit and slowly but surely, he was able to delegate more and let go a little bit more and be able to spend more time on business development, not, be racing around all day from job site to client to phone calls to, the office. And he even, I went back to look at some of our notes and he was saying that, for him, the notion that every situation is actually a possibility to learn and grow and figure out new ways of doing things, even if it feels really difficult at the time, that the impact for him was that his well-being improves immediately, just having that mindset shift, and also being able to be more effective and present with whatever people he was coming across, whether it was his crew or clients. And I mean, this whole business is really about relationships in the end, right? So if you can be calmer and improve your interactions with your employees and your clients, then, your business is going to improve as well as your happiness.
So how long did it take him to make whatever significant improvement is, where he goes, well, I'm happier than I used to be?
Well, we worked for 6 months together. And I'd say, the significant inner changes were fairly quick because this was a person who had already done some of the inner work. And then in terms of, that turning into effects on the business, I would say a couple of months to have it really trickle down the chain. But the changes in him were pretty quick, like a matter of weeks.
And I'm assuming his employees were happier too, well, not alone his wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the mental health of the business was a reflection of his mental health. So as he got more mentally fit, the employees got more mentally fit magically, right? That works.
Perfectly put. Yes. Yeah, because there's a contagion effect to all this stuff. Like, we've all been around somebody who's stressed out and like freaking out and, just really tight or whatever. And you start to feel kind of icky too. I mean, we have these things called mirror neurons in our nervous system, that our nervous system starts mirroring the people around us. Right. And so that pulls out, and so does, if you've ever been around somebody who's really grounded and calm and has their stuff together and is just like, okay, we're going to deal with this. You feel like, okay.
Right.
So yeah, there's a total ripple effect. And back into your homes and your families, and, they notice too, the difference.
Right. So I think everybody listening to this podcast should call you, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So if they want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Yes, they can go to yes2yum.com. I don't know, will you have show notes or anything like that?
I just mentioned it on here. I will have them, but you can do that.
Okay. So yeah, it's and the 2 is the number 2. That's probably the best way. You can set up a consultation with me, a free consultation. We can chat about what's going on for you and how, we might be able to work together. I would invite them to also, 3 times a year, I run a mental fitness boot camp program. It's a 10-week program. I have one in January, April, and September. And I would love to offer your listeners a discount code for that. Okay. If they want to take any of them this year. And that, I don't have that at the tip of my finger.
Well, they can call you and get the discount code, right?
They can call me. Oh, here we go. It's BST for Business Success Tips 15. BST 15.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's
Appreciate it.
information on my website about the boot camp as well.
Cool.
And I would just say, even if you don't want to, talk with me or get in touch, may I offer three things to maybe do to think about, that might start making a change right away. The first would be, if you can, start your day with even just 10 minutes of quiet before you pick up your phone or jump into your email or even race that, out the door, whether that's just sitting there being quiet. Some people like to read. I encourage people to either journal, maybe meditate, pray if you pray, but give yourself 10 minutes before hitting the ground running. And pay attention. Start to get self-aware. Start noticing your looping thoughts, how you're feeling, how it's feeling in your body, and what are the behaviors that those thoughts and feelings cause, because really awareness is the first step of making any kind of change.
Okay.
And ask yourself, what might be the opportunity in this situation when something feels difficult.
Okay. There were three things. That was all three?
Yep. Get quiet in the morning, pay attention to and then ask yourself, where's the opportunity?
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Janine. I will say it, Janine, right?
Janine.
Janine, I should know it. Okay, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
This is something that, this is what most contractors should do, but don't. So I highly recommend, because you're a vehicle, as I see it, they don't have to go to therapists. They don't have to read all these books, get a guru, go to Tibet, whatever, right? They can just give you a call. It's a lot easier and it'll probably help them a lot. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate you being here.
Happy to be here. Thank you.